Hi guys, today I'm upcycling these cans, and these are food cans. So I'm upcycling it. I'm going to be using them for storage, and I did decorate them in a theme that would match to my craft room. That's the reason I did it. But I hope you guys like it, and here's what you have to do. And I'm using 3 of the 1 gallon cans and a couple of the smaller ones. And I started off by washing them and removing all the paper thing that comes on them. On this bush bean can, it's like glued. I couldn't take it off, but like I pointed out, the other one I did take off it on the other ones. On these, I did measure the paper so that I knew exactly how wide I needed it and how long. So here I'm just hot gluing it, just because hot glue is quick. It's like instant versus just like regular glue. I don't want to take forever to dry, and it kind of wrinkles paper. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but regular glue does. And on this one I did have to add a piece because it wasn't quite long, but it's okay because we'll just make that the back. If you find other paper that you like, you can go ahead and just use a piece that's longer. And here, when I glued it down, it wasn't like parallel to that little trim you can kind of see on the top of the can, and I wanted that to be shown just because I thought it made it look nicer. It kind of gave it a border. But anywho, I did construction paper on these too, and I went ahead and I cut this. I think it's called the mask wrapping paper, and I cut strips to do as a border. And this black paper I've used throughout my room, my craft room, to decorate. So I wanted it all to match. And I think I mentioned it before, but I'm doing different shades of pink, so I did construction paper on these smaller ones. And then I do have some labels that I decided to put on the center, so I kind of made sure that I knew where the back was, the where I connected the paper, and I did it exactly on the opposite end. That's why I keep turning them to see where I placed, where I have the seam. Let's just go with that word, yeah. Then I did have some little pearl bead stickers, and I added a little strip on these smaller ones. I think I put like 5 or 6 of them, and they come in little strips, so I just kind of cut them down to whatever I needed. And I did the same on both, just even number of beads on both sides, or pearls. And this one's one of those cheese Frito cans, and the same thing, but this one does come with a lid, so that's great. And the same thing, I'm just hot gluing the strip around to make it look nice and neat. You can also spray paint them or paint them, but I feel that when you cover it in paper, it kind of eliminates those grooves or ridges, whatever it's called, on the can, and it makes it look not so much like it's an actual can, more like, they're storage containers instead of just cans, because nobody wants, anything looking like you used it out of cans. And here I just traced a circle around the lid, but it does have little grooves on the side, so I did cut it smaller than the actual circle. That way when I fit it in, it fits right in the center. See. And then I just this one I did glue with tacky glue, and I'm pointing out here that this does come, they repackaged it, so now it can stand and you don't have to wait, because it's really thick. You don't have to wait for it to come to the bottom of the bottle. It's always facing down. And here I'm applying the glue, and I do use a little piece of cardboard to kind of smooth it out so that I don't have these big old blisters of glue on the bottom. And I smooth it out and then just place it on the lid. That way it covers the Frito logo, and it makes it look, again, like it's not some just made up thing. Like, it's some things you want to look kind of homemade. I didn't want to look so homemadey, like too much, I guess. And out of this, what are they, like those little cards that you get of color samples? For some reason I always get them, and I use them for different things. And so I'm just cutting a strip of them here, and I'm rounding the edges, and I do punch little holes so that I can string a piece of ribbon through the sides and then wrap it around this little can, and that way when I decide what I'm going to put in here, I can write down what it is. And here I'm measuring how big I need the ribbon so that I know how much to cut, and then I end up cutting about 1 inch more, and then I just put it through, tape it, and hot glue it onto the can. And on this final piece, I do like add a little bit of glue to fold it over so that it looks neater and it doesn't fray. That way when I put it over, it keeps everything looks neater and it keeps it from fraying. And there's that one. It comes out really cute. And I was pointing out that I accidentally I should have moved the label. I didn't pay attention to where the seam of the paper was, but you can't really tell, so I'm fine with that. And you can, if you want, line the inside with paper so that you can't see the grooves on the inside too, but nobody's gonna be seeing that. And I didn't film the part where I wrap these because it's the same thing. I just added a piece of ribbon. But these are the big ones. These are like tomato sauce. I don't know what they were. I think some of it was hominy for like pozole or menudo. I don't make that, but my mom does, and I took them from her. And I did add a label to these, and I'm pointing out here that I did cut some circles. I wanted a lid for the larger ones, that way whatever I put isn't like shown. And I'm showing how I did it. I just traced on a piece of cardboard, and I did 2 of them, and I glued them together so that it made it thicker. That way when I did it, it had a little more support. And I did 3 of them because I have 3 of those large cans. And then on this black printed paper, I traced the circles, I cut them out, and I made them bigger so that I could wrap it. And then I made a pink one for the inside, and I'm showing that I did a strip of cardboard, which I did like 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little smaller than that, so that I could put it so that it would have a little groove so that this lid wouldn't like slide back and forth. It had like, it would hold. So like I said, I cut the circle. I'm showing you here that I traced it, and I do add glue right now. And with the same little piece of cardboard, I smeared it around so that I have no blisters, and it kind of makes the glue, kind of like covers the entire thing with glue. That way when I set it down, the whole thing is glued onto the paper. And I do cut little slits. I'm smoothing it out now, but I cut slits all the way around like this so that when I fold it over, there's no creases. I didn't want any creases. I wanted it to look as neat as possible. Like I said, I didn't want it to look so like homemade. I wanted them to come out, good, and it's something that I'm going to use in my room, so I wanted it to be nice and neat, that I want to keep for a while. And I'm just going to go ahead and like smear it with that same little piece of cardboard. I used it for everything. You can use a brush, but I feel like brushes get ruined with glue, so I try to minimize the use of them as much as possible. So here I'm just using that other piece of gluing the other piece of paper, and again I use the same little piece of cardboard and I smear it all, and then I place it on the back. So I'm kind of like lining it just so that it's nice. Like I said, I wanted it to look nice, and I want the lid to be nice on the outside and on the inside. So once I smooth it out, I do let it dry, but for the sake of the video, I did just go ahead and start hot gluing it. And I'm kind of like measuring it out, which I recommend you don't. I realized this after the first one, but just kind of start gluing down and just cut it as when you get to the end and you know exactly where it ends. But I just glued it. I started by adding the glue on the little strip of paper, the cardboard, but I ended up adding it on the actual circle. See, like I'm doing now. And I just did that all the way around till I was done. And again, the hot glue dries instantly, so this part is much easier to do. And here I'm just adding a little reinforcement on the inside, and as soon as it dries, it's good to go. And I'm just kind of showing you how you put it there, and it doesn't move. Like once it's there, it's easier. I mean, unless of course the jar's upside down, the can's upside down. And I did use 2 wine corks to slice in half and then use those as like little knobs. Of course, if you want to be fancy and buy an actual knob, you can do that, but I just did wine cork, and then I just did a glob of glue on one of them and kind of smeared it on all 3 so that I could dip it in glue. I mean, glue, that is glue, in glitter. And I did black glitter just so it kind of matched. I was going to do pink, but then I realized let's just do black since there's not too much black aside from the top of the lid. And then I decided to cover the corks in a strip of ribbon just to make it look nicer. And when I did it, like before I added the label to the actual can, it kind of didn't look like it matched too much, like the lid was way off. So by adding the ribbon and then adding that label on the actual can, it kind of like brought it all together more instead of just looking like it was mismatched. And here I'm like kind of rubbing glue on the edges to keep it from fraying. Of course you can burn them with a match, but I don't have matches upstairs in my craft room, so which I should get them, but I didn't have any there. So that's another way that I've done it. I do glue and then cut it, and it keeps it from fraying just to make it look neater. And I just simply wrap the ribbon around and just made sure that the side that I did the glue on the edge from keeping it from fraying, I made sure that that was the end that was going to end up facing towards the cork instead of being the outer edge, to keep it as neat as possible. And here I'm just going to be doing a big glob of glue and gluing it to the lid. Man, I realized that I talk a lot and I kind of run out of breath as I'm going. I have to take a break. Whew. But anywho, after I do this, I try it out again, and then I've decided that I think I want to add some little some of those pink pearls to kind of bring the whole set in so that they all kind of match. And I add the little pearls, you'll see in a second. Oh, those are the labels. I thought I had already shown that clip, sorry. I was mentioning before. See, that way it looks more, there's black on both and then there's pink on both. Anyhow, this is when I do the little beads. I add the strip, and then I end up doing one little bead, but I put hot glue on them because they have adhesive on the back of them, but so I end up doing a little dollop of glue on the top one because of the glitter. And here's the final product. Sorry about the light change. My camera for some reason sometimes turns on the flash on it and it just blows everything with too much light. But anyways, they came out really good. They're really cute, and I'm just kind of showing you here how you can put some markers, have some brushes, and some little clips. There's nothing in here yet, but I'm just kind of showing you what you can do, and they don't look bad at all, aside from the glue on the inside, but like the outside looks really neat and clean. So anyways, I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you would want to get updates on when I put more. Thanks for watching. See you guys later. Bye.